Namaskar, a warm welcome to the World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Navnita Adhikari and with me is Manoj Singh Rana bringing glimpses of the major development of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. Global conclave on CoWIN digital platform to be held on Monday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to share his thoughts. Prime Minister Narendra Modi extends greetings to the President and the people of United States of America on their 245th Independence Day. At least 29 people killed and 50 people rescued in a military aircraft crash in the Philippines. India's Army Chief M.M. Naravane embarks on visit to the United Kingdom and Italy. In tennis, Wimbledon opens centre court with 100% capacity from the quarterfinals. In football, Italy, Spain, Denmark and England enter semi-finals of Euro 2020. As the nationwide free COVID-19 vaccination campaign at government facilities for those above 18 years is underway, we advise our young listeners to get vaccinated and also to help others to get vaccinated. We also advise our listeners not to lower their guard as COVID-19 remains a threat to our health. Please stay at home unless it is essential to go out and continue to follow these 3 simple steps. Wear face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki doori for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. A global conclave on the CoWIN platform will be held on Monday. The CoWIN platform has been the tech backbone of India's vaccination drive. In a tweet, spokesperson of the External Affairs Ministry, Mr. Arindam Bagchi, said that the conclave will see participation from health and technology experts from across the globe. He added that India will share the experience of its vaccination drive through CoWIN platform. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will share his thoughts on the CoWIN Global Conclave on Monday. In a tweet, the National Health Authority said Mr. Modi will share a special message at the conclave. India offers CoWIN as a digital public good to the world to combat COVID-19. Union Health Minister Dr. Harsh Vardhan will inaugurate CoWIN Global Conclave in the presence of Dr. R.S. Sharma, Chairman of Empowered Group on Technology and Data Management to combat COVID-19. The virtual meet will see participation from health and technology experts across the globe. It aims to share India's experience with regards to universal COVID-19 vaccination drive through the CoWIN platform. India's Foreign Secretary, Mr. Harshvardhan Shringla, speaking at the UN Security Council open debate on cybersecurity earlier this week, referred to the popularity of the CoWIN app.
As part of its COVID vaccination drive, one of the largest such drives in the world, India has developed CoWIN, a scalable, inclusive and open technological platform. The CoWIN platform can be customized and scaled up for health interventions across the globe. We are working on sharing this platform with partner countries in the interest of health cooperation and their preparedness to meet challenges, the health of countries across the world.
More than 35 crore 12 lakh vaccine doses have been administered so far under the nationwide vaccination drive in India. The Health Ministry said over 63 lakh 87,000 doses were administered on Saturday. The recovery rate in the country has gone up to 97.09%. Over 52,000 patients recovered during the last 24 hours. India's active caseload has declined to 4 lakh 85,350. Active cases constitute 1.59% of the total cases. Weekly positivity rate and daily positivity rate have also declined further. 955 deaths were reported in the last 24 hours. With this, the death toll due to the pandemic has reached 4,02,005.
Now let's take a look at the coronavirus updates from around the world. Bangladesh remained shut down on the 4th day of the country-wide strict lockdown, which started on the 1st of July to contain the spiraling COVID-19 infection in the country. In the midst of the ongoing country-wide strict lockdown, Bangladesh reported the highest number of deaths in a single day due to corona on Sunday. Prasar Bharati special correspondent in Dhaka reports that very few vehicles were seen on the roads in the capital city Dhaka on Sunday. Shops were also closed except those which sold items of daily use and medicines. More than 1,900 people have been detained in Dhaka over the last 4 days for violating the lockdown provisions. The police and special magistrates are imposing fines on people coming out of their homes without any convincing reasons. In Brazil, protesters took to the streets in Brazil on Saturday demanding the impeachment of President Jair Bolsonaro and more vaccines to fight the coronavirus pandemic. The country faces the world's second deadliest outbreak after the United States. According to reports, Supreme Court Justice Rosa Weber on Friday authorized the opening of an investigation into Bolsonaro over alleged irregularities in procurement of vaccines developed in India. The UK government is celebrating Thank You Day to shine a light on Scotland's unsung heroes who have served local communities during the pandemic. The UK government in a statement said that with the backing from a host of Scottish celebrities including TV's Lorraine Kelly, Olympic rower Dame Catherine Granger and Scotland's youngest Michelin-starred chef Tom Kitchen, the day is dedicated to giving thanks to those who have gone the extra mile to help their neighbours.
This is All India Radio giving you the news.
The centre is disseminating awareness of national helpline numbers for the benefit of citizens during the COVID-19 pandemic. The helpline number of the Health and Family Welfare Ministry is 1075. The child helpline number is 1098. For senior citizens of Delhi, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand, the helpline number is 14567. The helpline number of National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, NIMHANS, for psychological support is 08046110007. Ayush COVID-19 counselling helpline number is 14443 and MyGov WhatsApp help desk number is 9013151515.
India joined the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development OECD and G20 Inclusive Framework Tax Deal of Global Corporate Tax on Friday. India's Finance Ministry said that the principles underlying the solution vindicates India's stand for a greater share of profits for the markets. In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a discussion on the rationale and implications of India joining the Global Minimum Corporate Tax Framework. In conversation are Shubhamoy Bhattacharjee, economic analyst, and Shishir Sinha, journalist.
Shubha, 130 countries have joined agreement on global minimum tax for companies. And this is basically an attempt to address challenges presented by a globalized and increasingly digital world economy in which profit can be relocated across borders and companies can earn online profits in places where they have no taxable headquarters. What does it mean for India?
Companies, especially those not only in the technological sector, but also others who are now struggling in countries who are way too big, often end up as the biggest, what I should say, the business entity in different countries, but they are not taxable in those countries. Or rather, most of the time, because of the fact that they don't have a permanent establishment in those countries, the ability of the respective countries to tax them remains extremely limited. As you know, taxation works on the principle that you got to be having a presence in a country before you can be called for taxation by the country's tax authorities. But when a product of a company is sold in a country, that doesn't necessarily mean that that company will be taxed by that country or can be taxed by that country because of the lack of the presence of any permanent establishment. And what do you mean by permanent establishment? Basically, a place from where the company is doing its business. So as a result, lots of times we get companies, obviously in the technological sphere, we are seeing all these companies, right from Google to anybody else, Amazon, Facebook and everybody, but even otherwise. When we are looking at companies whose products we are buying, that company, since it doesn't have a business presence in the particular country, the taxability of the tax authorities remains unsure, and often the companies are able to get away through this loophole and do not have to pay the tax.
Under this arrangement, what we understand that we are talking the allocation of additional share of profit to the market jurisdiction, and the second pillar consisting of minimum tax and subject to tax ruling. The timeline as of now is understood to be 2023. Do you think this timeline is slightly ambitious?
Yes, it will be ambitious. And before that, let me connect with what we were discussing earlier. So what the current agreement essentially entails is that even if a company doesn't have an establishment in any country where it is selling its product, that country will now, under this international rule which has been, or international agreement that has been signed by the different countries, will be allowed to tax. And a company will not be able to say that, no, I don't have an establishment, so therefore you cannot tax me. The basis of taxation will be the amount of sales you do. So if the sales is above a particular threshold level, then, and if the company has been making profit, again, global profit on its activities, then that company becomes liable to be taxed in the country in which it is doing its business. This is significant because this means that countries don't need to work out that whether an establishment works or doesn't work. There are lots of complications, and those are now being totally eliminated. Instead, companies simply on the basis of the amount of sales that they're doing, and that is easily recordable data, the company will be taxed. The issue is about whether this sort of a thing, even though we are saying it's a simpler form, can this be done by the year 2023? The problem that comes along is that when we say that we are measuring sales, not every country has the ability, and typically developing countries do not have the ability to bring in the scale of measurement that is required to be able to make this transition. I mean, as it is, they were not able to tax earlier. This sort of a thing to be able to start rolling out, it will be difficult. Also, for countries like India, when we are specifically looking about it, while India has the ability to do it certainly, India already has established very strong rules of taxation of companies within the country on the basis of its own established tax laws. Many of those tax laws will now need to be changed, and direct tax laws are changed only with the Finance Act, which is the budget every year. So essentially that means that almost all the changes will have to be now brought in the budget of next year. Once you change the law, then you have to say that you have to give a year's preparation time for that company to become assessed as per the new taxation formula. So we shall have to sort of, first of all, eliminate a lot of taxes and bring in fresh taxes as per the new norms. And that's just the beginning. There are several other issues there to be sorted out.
If I understand correctly, under this deal, the countries could tax their companies' foreign earning up to 15% if they go untaxed through subsidiaries in other countries. Remove the incentive to use accounting and legal schemes to shift profit to low-rate countries where they do little or no business, since the profit would be taxed at home anyway. OECD estimated that such tax avoidance practices cost countries between $100 billion to $240 billion annually. Does this mean that we will not have a concept, what we call as treaty shopping or tax haven?
Shishir, that is exactly what it's supposed to entail. Now, what does it mean, the treaty shopping, is that today many of the technology companies, typically, as you pointed out, establish their headquarters in a place where there's a very low rate of taxation, and these are the tax havens. Once having established the headquarters there, they claim to the country where they are selling that you cannot tax me because I have already got my headquarters in a XYZ place, and that is where I shall be taxed. And since with this tax havens, practically no developing country has taxation treaty, it is not possible for the developing countries to tax them. Why only developing countries? Even developed countries also run into similar problems. So that treaty shopping should come to an end. However, the point is that there are, what we should say, challenges to doing it. One of the first things is that, the proposal that was brought in by OECD was that all multinationals, irrespective of size, should be taxed at the place where it is doing its business. The American proposal, which has been accepted, is no, let's not do that. Let's have a threshold of the top 100 companies in the world. And how do you establish the top 100 companies in terms of their turnover, which is those with turnover of $20 billion or more. Now, that seems plausible, but it also creates the challenge that that company, which is above $20 billion, is going to be taxed in the country where it is doing its business. But in doing so, the country is opening itself to rules of taxation which has been set under this new format. So the country cannot say that if I have got, say, 30% rate of tax or a 35% rate of tax, I will impose that rate of tax. No, the rule says a rate of taxation shall be as per internationally settled orders, which does mean that countries like India may have to actually reduce rates of taxes on several of these companies before it gets round to start making the tax systems work.
If I go back to 2019, when the corporate tax rate was reduced to 15% for the newer project, that was mainly for the manufacturing sector, not for the services sector. The other thing is which I want to read from the press release by Finance Ministry just a day before, and it says that India is in favor of a consensus solution which is simple to implement and simple to comply. At the same time, the solution should result in allocation of meaningful and sustainable revenue to market jurisdiction, particularly for developing and emerging economies. What kind of challenges we can see in consensus setting?
When we say that we want it to be simple, that is obviously something that no one will have a contradiction with. But taxes of companies don't necessarily end up being simple, not because governments don't want it, but also often companies also don't want it. And when it is a question of taxing multinationals, then the problem becomes even more difficult. Now, what India had been doing so far had been that you may be a multinational in XYZ company, in XYZ country, but as far as we are concerned, if you are doing business in India, we presume that you have got a permanent establishment. Above a threshold level, if you're doing business, we assume that you've got a permanent establishment and you're therefore taxable as per the Indian tax law. This policy shall have to be basically be given a go by. And India will have to accept the international norms of a taxation which says that you can tax all the companies, but at rates which has been negotiated globally. Now, as you can see that there are lots of issues here which will be about what do you mean by global rates of taxation, whether that is fair. Because let's take a simple example. Let's take names of companies and because that's unavoidable. Say Reliance Industries is an Indian company. Now it is a large company, but most of its sales happens in India. Whereas, so naturally most of its tax will be paid in India, and that is what it does. But imagine a company that is abroad, like say a company like Amazon. Amazon is a company where most of its sales may be happening in some other place. Now the tax will be paid in that country. So now if a country has less number of multinationals based in that country, the taxability of the country becomes actually lower. This is an important point to be able to understand, that it often, while the principle is right, it actually creates more difficulty for developing countries which were till now working on taxability on the basis of that we don't care where your headquarters is. We simply say that if you are in a country, we establish you as a permanent establishment. What India has done is that it has said that, okay, this is a new sort of a pattern of taxation that has been established. We want to give it a fair try. And that is what the quote from the press release that you're reading is exactly what it says, that we are entering into it with good faith. Let us give it a shot. Let us give it an effort. And then, depending on how the outcomes turn out, we will then change or make a position accordingly in subsequent rounds of discussions.
India, along with many other countries, are being criticized for the digital taxation, what we know as the equalization levy in India. Do you think that after the introduction of this kind of system, post-2023, we will see that there will be no equalization levy and only this particular system will come into effect?
That is almost certain. If you have this taxation principle, then the digital tax or the equalization levy, as we were talking about, will have to be phased out. That is one of the major things, as I said, in the finance bill will have to be reworked next year, because both taxes cannot be at the same time. Because the equalization levy clearly says that it's a tax of 2% on your sales in the country. Here we are saying that it is a tax which will be levied on the sales based on agreed formula on a particular type of companies which is the companies above $20 billion and having a profit of a particular order in the global realm. So obviously the two systems cannot run simultaneously, and definitely the digital tax or the equalization levy will have to be given up by India.
If we go by the rate of taxation under equalization levy is just 2%. But when we talk about the new framework, minimum rate is around 15%. So the companies which do not have any permanent establishment in India or in any other country, so in that situation, the digital companies may have to pay more in a country like India.
My guess is that it will be lower. Let me put it this way: 2% on the sales, which India now insists, is being changed under the new law to say that you will have to pay 15% on two things. If your profit is above 10% of your global sales and you come within that group of the top 100. Now, within the top 100 also, the second pillar of this agreement says that the rate of taxation will have to be above how much above the 10% is the tax that you are asking for. Therefore, the base of the taxation is shifting from sales to profits. The companies who are under that framework will have a much more stronger say in ensuring where they are being taxed. Now, remember, even after this taxation system comes in, it's not that every country will have the similar rate of tax. So these things will have to be worked out about how companies manage their global sales and turnover issues. It is definitely true that India will get some amount of the tax. The critical point, as you are rightly pointing out, is whether it will be more than the digital levy is something that is being furiously calculated by the tax authorities now, and that will get more clarity once the actual rate of tax is settled.
Thank you very much, Shubhmay, for talking to us.
Thank you, Shishir.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has extended his greetings to the President, United States, Joe Biden, and the people of the US on their 245th Independence Day. In his message, Mr. Modi said, as vibrant democracies, India and the US share values of freedom and liberty. He said India-US strategic partnership has a truly global significance. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar also conveyed his warm wishes to the government and people of the USA on their Independence Day. In a tweet, he expressed confidence that the strong partnership of India and US, which is based on shared values and interests, will continue to grow further.
India's Army Chief General M.M. Narawane has proceeded on a visit to the United Kingdom and Italy. During his 4-day visit, he will be meeting his counterparts and senior military leaders of the two countries with an aim to enhancing India's defence cooperation. During his visit to the United Kingdom, General Narawane will interact with the Secretary of State for Defence, the Chief of Defence Staff, the Chief of General Staff and other dignitaries. He will also be visiting various army formations where he will exchange ideas on issues of mutual interest. During the second leg of his tour, the Army Chief will be holding important discussions with the Chief of Defence Staff and the Chief of Staff of the Italian Army. Additionally, he will also inaugurate the Indian Army Memorial in the famous town of Cassino. He will also be briefed at the Italian Army's Counter-IED Center of Excellence at Cecignola, Rome.
A C-130 military transport aircraft carrying 92 people has crashed in the southern Philippines. 17 bodies were found at the crash site on Holo Island. According to a statement by Defense Minister Delfin Lorenzana, at least 29 people have been killed and 50 people have been rescued so far from the wreckage of the aircraft. 40 people survived the crash and were taken to a nearby military hospital. Philippines Defense Secretary informed that the plane, a C-130 Hercules, was trying to land at Holo Airport when it overshot the runway.
Moving on to sports, bringing cheers to tennis fans. The Wimbledon tournament from the quarter-final stage onwards will be open at 100% capacity. In a tweet, the organisers of the tournament announced that the centre and court number 1 will have 100% capacity crowds for the quarter-finals, with the centre also at 100% capacity for the semi-finals and finals. The capacity of the centre court is 14,979 and the capacity of court number 1 is 12,345. Capacity across the rest of the grounds will be reduced according to the number of courts in play. This will make them the first full outdoor stadia at a UK sporting event since the pandemic began. In football at the Euro 2020, England stormed into the semi-finals after defeating Ukraine 4-0 in Rome last night to book a clash with Denmark. Captain Harry Kane gave England an early lead in just the 4th minute, followed by Harry Maguire's brilliant header in the 46th minute. Harry Kane scored his second goal in the 50th minute. In the other quarter-final encounters on Friday, Italy knocked out Belgium 2-1 at Munich, while Spain became the first team to progress to the semi-finals after beating Switzerland 3-1 on penalties in St. Petersburg. Italy and Spain will now lock horns with Spain at the Wembley Stadium on Tuesday for a place in the final.
With only a few days remaining for the start of the Tokyo Olympics, All India Radio brings a special series on India's medal prospects at the sporting extravaganza. Today we will talk about swimmer Mana Patel.
21-year-old Mana Patel, who hails from Ahmedabad, shone through her performances at the national and international levels and now will represent India at the grandest of all sporting events in Tokyo. Aged 13, Mana's performances at the 40th Junior National Aquatics Championship 200-meter backstroke event and 2019 at the 10th Asian Championship held in Bengaluru saw her winning several medals. Mana talks about her preparation for Tokyo.
मैं सुबह 2 घंटे स्विमिंग करती हूँ, 1 घंटे का जिम होता है और फिर शाम को 2 घंटे का स्विमिंग होता है, तो ये हमारा रूटीन है पूरे हफ्ते के लिए.
To her long list of medals, Mana has gold medals in the 50-meter backstroke and 200-meter backstroke in the national games. She also set a new national record in the 100-meter backstroke event at the 60th National School Games and was picked for the Olympic gold quest in 2015. In 2018, at the 72nd Senior National Aquatic Championship, Mana won 3 gold medals. A proud father talks about Mana becoming the first Indian woman to qualify for an Olympic swimming event.
उसकी जो 10 साल की जो मेहनत है स्विमिंग में और उसने जो अभी ये हासिल किया है वो बहुत प्राउड मोमेंट है.
Mana has set her focus firmly on winning a medal for India at the Tokyo Olympics. Mana talks about the grueling training she is currently undergoing for Tokyo.
मैं ओलंपिक्स में इंडिया को रिप्रेजेंट करने जा रही हूँ. आई एम वेरी होपफुल कि मेरा परफॉर्मेंस अच्छा रहेगा और मैं अपनी कंट्री का और इंडियन स्विमिंग का नाम रोशन करूँ.
All eyes would be on Mana at the Tokyo Olympics as Indians send their warm wishes to the first woman swimmer to qualify for the Olympics. Siddharth Singh, Sports Desk.
Vijay Chaure of Thane in Maharashtra has won the AIR News Olympics quiz by becoming the fastest to send the right answer on the 3rd day today.
मैं नियमित रूप से ऑल इंडिया रेडियो सुनता हूँ, खासकर आपका स्पोर्ट्स कैन कार्यक्रम, और मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा कि आप लोगों ने इस ओलंपिक क्विज का आयोजन किया है, जिससे न सिर्फ हमें खेलों के बारे में जानकारी मिलती है बल्कि हमारी रुचि भी खेलों के बारे में बढ़ती है. जो ओलंपिक में 100 से ऊपर लोगों का दस्ता जा रहा है, मुझे विश्वास है कि वो इस बार ओलंपिक में अपना सबसे अच्छा प्रदर्शन करेंगे और हमारे देश का झंडा ऊंचा करेंगे.
All India Radio's Olympics quiz, launched on the 1st of this month, has received a tremendous response from across the country. Hundreds of listeners have emailed their responses. To take part in the Olympics quiz, tune into the Sports Scan program.
A quick look at the headlines once again. Global conclave on CoWIN digital platform to be held on Monday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to share his thoughts. Prime Minister Narendra Modi extends greetings to the President and the people of the United States of America on their 245th Independence Day. At least 29 people killed and 50 people rescued in a military aircraft crash in the Philippines. India's Army Chief General M.M. Naravane embarks on visit to the United Kingdom and Italy. In tennis, Wimbledon Open, centre court with 100% capacity from the quarterfinals. In football, Italy, Spain, Denmark and England enter semi-finals of the Euro 2020. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favourite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Belarus. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.